It's episode 123 of the Building Sustainability Podcast with me, your host, Jeffrey Hart. This is a bonus episode with Caroline Nicolay, released on Patreon as a bonus. It got excellent feedback, and so I thought I would release it for everyone. I was worried that there might be more questions than answers, but the good people of Patreon said it was great. So here it is. If you're a crafty type, then stay tuned until right at the end for some brilliant spoon facts. Bits of news first. Clayfest. There are so many great workshops and talks and loads of brilliant earth builders in one place, all at Clayfest this year. Today's guest included. My Earth Floors workshop has sold out, so make sure you don't miss out on any of the others. Get over there and make a booking. It's going to be brilliant. If you've got questions about earth building, you will be surrounded by the top people in the country. So definitely don't miss out on that. And if you are specifically interested in earth floor workshops, then I will try to run another workshop at my place towards the end of the summer. Send me an email if you are up for that, and I will add you to a list so you don't miss out. But otherwise, look out for it on my social media. Netcomb Craft School is go. We had our first course last weekend and it was fantastic. Right now, the woods is awash with bluebells. It is absolutely stunning. And our workshop just sits in the middle of it. Beautiful. So there are courses running all summer, from bowl turning to basket weaving and all kinds of stuff in between. Check out netcombcraftschool.com. And book onto a course now. I can't wait to see you in the woods. I said that to someone at a demonstration I was doing in our local town. I'll see you in the woods. And realised it might sound a little sinister. I mean it in a really welcoming way. Right, finally, I am taking a little break from the podcast for a couple of months. I've got a couple of big projects to finish and some really exciting earth floors to install. Then I will hit the road and start recording more episodes for you. I've already got some great ones booked in. I'm really excited to find a load more. So stay tuned for those. And before the episode, I wanted to thank all of the patrons for your continued support. You truly rock my world. And especially this week, it is Tom Greenway. Hello, Tom. Welcome aboard. I hope you are enjoying advert-free listening and some excellent Patreon-only content. There's about 11 hours worth to enjoy, although I do know that Tom is currently installing earth floors, so maybe he hasn't got time to dig into that. That's it. That's all I've got. Here is a brilliant another hour of chat with Caroline Nicolay. Enjoy.
Chalk Valley History Festival. That's where we built, in fairness, an Iron Age roundhouse that was meant to be a display for 1 week. It's been 2 years now. I'm so proud. It works, a charm. But again, between the festival and the Ancient Technology Centre, yes, we own chalk lands. So they have done, at the centre, they have done a great job of testing out and getting the kids and the school groups to make chalk cob walls, to make, I want to call them bricks, chalk bricks, things like that. And they're using it to repair, say, the Roman forge, for example, which has such bricks walls. Yep, there's a lot more to do, but that's already a really good example.
Yeah. I went to visit... when would that have been? Last year sometime, probably a year and a half ago. And I've never seen so much chalk. It sort of coincided with a visit to a local village when I was filming some different types of earth buildings. And we went and looked at this chalk cob house, and I just couldn't believe how much white there was everywhere. And how this material that I don't really understand, chalk, to me, the idea of building a wall out of it or making cob out of it was very, very alien. It didn't seem like it was going to work. But then, when I got to the Ancient Technology Centre, everything was chalk. There's so much white everywhere. And it completely sort of opened my eyes to to this quite incredible material.
I'm glad you say that, because I thought it was kind of just me. No, I have read Terry Pratchett in France. Well, from France. So it's the Discworld novels, and that authors talks a lot about chalk hills, and I genuinely thought it was just his imagination. Nowhere in the world, nowhere. There was no way chalk could be made into hills and people would live on it.
Yeah.
A few years later, I moved to Dorset on the chalk hills. So that was a shock. And moving from Bath to Herefordshire to Dorset, I've seen so many different styles of construction, and it's it's really different, but not too far away.
Yeah.
So in Bath, I thought the entirety of the UK was built out of stone. I hadn't seen a brick. Arriving in Herefordshire, the earth is really red. It's terracotta. It's full of iron, exactly like where I'm here now, in Scotland. It's very, very red. And then you move to Dorset, and as you say, it's pure white everywhere. You can dig as much as you like. There's topsoil, and then there's chalk and flint everywhere. And to find clay is such a rare resource around the centre. There's just none. You need to travel to find it. So having chalk cob as walls, again, mind-blowing to me, but chalk floors, that really sparked my interest. And I moved away from the chalk, before I could really pin that down and experiment more with it. And that's really sad. I hope I'll get back to it.
Yes, well, I hope you do too. I'm fascinated by the idea of chalk floors. Well, do you want to start by maybe talking about how you do chalk cob?
I can tell you how I've done it, which comes from nothing. Chalk
how did you do it?
Super weird. Oh, well, I crush the chalk. Sometimes you might treat yourself and even sieve the chalk a little bit. Then you add some water. Sometimes you dare sprinkling, and I genuinely mean sprinkling, a little bit of chopped hay on top, really to say that you have put a fibre in it. You don't really need to at all. You slap it on and you leave it to dry.
Right.
And it doesn't budge, because unlike clay, chalk doesn't shrink. And that's why I struggle working with clay at the moment. I need to take into account the shrinkage and think about all these properties. Chalk, you slap it onto something, be it as wet as, say, Greek yogurt. That's how I applied it onto walls to make a fake white plaster last year. I had chalk powder, bought a bag, added some water, slapped it with my bare hands on a wall, left it to dry, so about 10 minutes. It began to crack, very fine hairline cracks all around the place. Then with your bare hands or a piece of leather, you smooth it out. That's it. That is genuinely it. It's a very bad plaster because I haven't added any binder. So every time you rub on it, of course you're covered in white. But the visual effect is stunning.
Yeah, I
it's
bet.
Smooth, flat, and bright white. And you don't need more than that.
That's fantastic. My very limited understanding was that chalk cob would often be shuttered. So more sort of a pied-à-terre, rammed earth type thing. I don't have any evidence to back that up. That is just what I was told.
That makes much more sense. Because now it explains why they have all these lines on the old cottages that you can see from the side of the road. Yes, of course, it must be shuttering.
Yeah, and I believe the chalk sort of, it compacts really well, doesn't it? There's something, sort of a magical, forgive me, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I'm having a good go. There's something about the particle size that compacts really well and makes it sort of sticks together without being sticky because of the particles, I believe. And so sort of ramming it all together makes a very firm surface.
According to what I heard on Building Sustainability podcasts, yes, I think that's what.
Oh, really?
That's what it is.
Did someone say that
Yeah.
episode? Oh, goodness. Who was that?
I'm sure it's Roland Keeble.
Oh, yes.
He was
Yes,
talking
yes,
about
yes.
mixing. It was mixing about 10% of chalk in a clay mix, be it daub or plaster. I cannot quite remember what he was talking about. Made it just work better, and it was all down to the sizes of particles, with the chalk being much bigger than the clay, tiny particles.
Yeah.
And then, what I took from it is, wow, it works brilliantly well, and it's the magic of it.
Yeah.
But they are professional, actually very close to where you were, and I think where we built the roundhouse, so the chalk valley. Effectively, it's a chalk valley.
Mm-hmm.
There is, I cannot remember his name, and he might be listening to the podcast. I'm so sorry. There is a professional chalk cob builder. I know that because we met very briefly on the talk shop.
Okay.
The e-bookie talk shop. And I lost his email address. It's written somewhere, and I moved, and the paper is somewhere in a pile of a million other notes.
Oh, no. I think there is a register taken. I'll have a little rootle through the e-bookie archives, because I think that information was written down somewhere. So I will try and find their name for you.
Oh, that'd be great. Because I'm sure that would be the person who would know everything and could answer every single one of your questions and my questions. I just don't know who it is.
And maybe just not sort of speak about something they vaguely know about.
I mean, we tried really well, I find.
Yeah, I'm sure someone's found that very useful. Tell me about the Centre for Ancient Technology. It's very close to the Centre for Alternative Technology, which is a very different place. So
Yes.
Close in name, but not in substance, I guess.
Yes. So it's the Ancient Technology Centre in Cranbourne, Dorset. It's a brilliant, beautiful, and weird place because it's not quite an open air museum. It's mainly open. It's mainly closed to the public, mainly open to school groups and private bookings and some events. Even weddings, actually, but storytelling evenings and music evenings and a lot of different things. So it's not a site that you can just rock up to, park your car, pay a fee and enter and visit. It's quite a small private space. But if you contact them, they would be more than happy to give you a tour, to let you access the site, or ideally, if you have a group, just book with them.
Yeah.
And you can even hire the site and sleep in a Viking longhouse.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I went to see some storytelling there in the big roundhouse. That was, why I was there. And it was lovely. Just a fantastic setting for, what was it? It was feminist stories. It was kind of... stories of goddesses and fantastic women. It was beautiful setting, beautiful event, and I fell a bit in love with the place.
It's a fantastic place for so many reasons. The Earth House, so that's the big house you were in, is probably now past its 30 years old, and there's probably lots of questions about maintenance and so on and so forth, but it has a huge potential. I'm not working there anymore. I was a tutor for a good few years there, and I miss the site and my colleagues dearly. And the sheep, even the sheep. Oh. But the fact that it is so private and close to the public, and a Dorset Council property, of course, limits the things that you can do. Though they are very open to working with experimental archaeology, so the University of Exeter, Bournemouth as well, for example, groups, and for the natural building, it felt so close to inviting you to actually take part in some experiments about a chalk and cheese or milk floor.
Yes.
In their music pavilion. Well, in their pavilion. They and several other sites have been making these floors, and they all seem to have a different technique, different ideas, different results. So I haven't really found out what works, what doesn't, and in what conditions. But very close by is Stonehenge.
Yep.
And they have reconstructed Neolithic houses, Neolithic buildings. And in all these houses, the people from the Ancient Technology Center and people who were working there before as well made milk floors, so chalk and either milk or cheese curds floors. It works really well. It turns itself into a glue, into a natural plastic casing. So you have kind of as hard as concrete floors that you can brush. Some people say you can wash them and sweep them and everything. But at least it doesn't powder anymore.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's something of interest.
Definitely.
And I know... with your floors, Jeffrey, yes, definitely casein and proteins, but that would be another experiment with the blood floors. Always
You're
very keen on.
You're one of the only people I've ever met who is as excited about blood floors as I am.
I've met various people, and the majority of them, of course, because they're from the archaeology background, they go, "Ooh, protein floors, yes, we should do an experiment. This is so exciting."
I'm hanging out with the wrong crowd.
For this one, maybe. But I have the other ones, my other friends saying, gross. You would have some animal blood in your floor. That's terrible. It must be stinky and brown and... Like the milk, it might mold a little bit. And there has been an experiment in the north of England, and I cannot find the article again. I will look it up. But yeah, it's again a question of polymerization.
Yes.
I do apologize for anybody more scientific than me.
No, that's exactly it.
Yes, nailed it.
It's doing the same job as the linseed oil, so polymerizing. And I guess the blood it's essentially coagulating, isn't it? It's sort of scabbing up. I guess it's...
We need to work on the marketing.
Yeah. Have one of these in your home. This will be the second time I've put a shout out on the podcast for someone who wants a scabby floor.
Gross. But yes, it works really well. And the only thing I've ever heard about it is there's some protein floors that somewhere have been found in archaeology, and they're still doing that in Africa, both the milk floors and the protein floors, so the blood floors. So
yeah,
anybody with more information, I'm super interested in any case, and that's definitely an experiment for any open-air museum.
Just give us a call.
That's it. We'll turn up.
We'll be there.
Jeffrey knows how to make floors, and I know butchers. So for everybody listening, it's powdered blood that you can buy from the butcher. You just go and ask for powdered blood or dried up blood for making black pudding. This way they don't ask questions. But yeah, you can just buy it like that.
I was wondering about that. Whether the process of drying it might it would cause it. Are you essentially sort of forcing the coagulation to happen? And therefore, when you re-wet, my vocabulary is not very good this evening, re-wet the powder, whether it's sort of already done its thing. And whether...
Very good question.
I wonder whether fresh would be necessary. Someone really needs to experiment with this.
Definitely. Well, I've got a bag of dried blood in the cupboard, weirdly, to make black pudding.
Well, great. I've got
yeah.
some earth floor samples that I haven't put oil in yet. Maybe I'll go and get some dried blood and I'll give it a go.
Yes.
I'll report back.
Please do. Yes. Another episode.
Yeah.
Of the weird and wonderful whatever you can mix in your floor to make it work.
And I think the end colour's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because blood sort of goes a sort of browny colour as it dries.
Yeah, I would expect some mahogany kind of dark colour like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Well, we shall see. The chalk and cheese floors, or casein or milk floors, when I was researching them, when you got in contact with me, I kept seeing that they were cracked, which I didn't quite understand what was going on there, because to my understanding, the chalk wouldn't shrink, as you said earlier. So why would the floor crack? What's doing the shrinking in that?
Oh, that's a good question.
I wondered if there was maybe some clay impurities in the chalk causing that to happen. Whether the casein or the milk is causing a shrinking. Whether it just isn't, if that idea of compaction is really necessary, whether it just didn't get compacted enough.
Oh, that's a good point. I never thought about the compaction.
These were
because I've never made floors.
No.
So that's where your insight in making clay floors would be very useful.
Yeah.
Haha.
Can I be an honorary archaeologist for a little bit?
Yeah, everybody can. As far as I can tell, I can. Hey, archaeology is great. It's just, yeah.
Open door policy.
Yep. If you ask me, yeah. Otherwise, it's like everything else, isn't it? You just keep repeating the same things to the same people. It just goes in a circle and never ends.
Yeah. Well, that's that thing about the strength in diversity, isn't it? And people on the edges are the most, fringe sort of people are the most important because they sit on many different edges and can sort of cross-pollinate ideas.
Yeah.
I might be sort of bigging myself up there, bigging up my importance.
No, that's exactly it. Otherwise, nobody ever asks, why is the dope cracking?
Yeah.
And could we do better? I don't want to patch this every 2 months. That's a really good question. Now it bugs me about the chalk because, yes, you're right. I've seen the same floors, and some of them have been damaged because kids especially love scratching a floor until you get that little stone out and things like that. I should have a little look at how the inside of the Stonehenge houses is, because that's the last time I've heard. It's probably the most recent milk floor experiments I know of, except the pavilion at the ATC.
Yes, that was done just recently, wasn't it? Because that was the thing we were talking about working on. And do you know how that's gone?
I know it got really green at some point, but
green like mouldy.
You know, well, mouldy, mossy, a little bit of everything. There's no walls around it, so it attracts an awful lot of things. But the problem is the decision. I think I haven't quite followed what was going on. I think it has been decided to compact the first layers of chalk by dousing it with water, then adding an extra layer of crushed chalk, and this time pouring milk straight away over that. Yes, which might be a possibility. I keep hearing you either pour milk like straight out of the bottle, or you get people say old milk.
Right.
So
So
does it
one
mean...
that's starting to separate and go all bloaty?
That's my question, because when I make casing paint, which frankly is probably kind of a mortar, let's be honest, it's the cheese curds. So if you have old milk that's actually either separated or on its way, then what it does is the casing is what is the cheese curds or stays in the cheese curds. It's a long fiber, it's a long molecule, protein molecule. So when you make cheese, you separate the curds with the casing and the whey, the liquid, water, and so on and so forth. If you remove the whey, then you remove a huge part of the liquid. So my question is, did they use milk? Did they use curds? Is it cracking because when you pour milk, you have both the casing and a lot of moisture?
Yeah.
But then you probably wouldn't... That's a good question.
It's certainly
I can't answer it.
in when we add casein to, say, a plaster, it's casein. It's never milk.
Right.
So yeah, I don't.
Because I've been really intrigued by, very recently, took courses at the Scottish Lime Centre Trust. Revelation, I know very little about lime washes, and I'm fascinated by them. Because I suddenly realized, or been told that to lime washes, you can make them hot, so you slake the lime and you straight away make your lime wash. When it's still hot, you can mix tallow in it to apply it in exteriors. It's more waterproof, and you can add casein as well. And on the video, it's just pouring a specific volume of milk straight away from the bottle in the lime whilst it's slaking.
Okay.
And I've never heard of it. That's the only time I've seen it, heard of it, anything at all, and it's on one of the teaching videos. So I need to ask questions, but I haven't contacted Rose Artist for the moment. I need to go back to that at some point, because that was exactly my question. Is casing just the fairly expensive sort of powder additive that you can buy, or because in the natural paint book you can use quark that you buy from the supermarket, or cottage cheese as a form of casein paint. So the plot thickens.
Whoa. I don't know if I've done a podcast where more questions than answers have arisen. This is good. This is just whole lots of... I feel like a spider at the centre of a web, and every little strand is another exciting research avenue.
And who knows, you might suddenly get all the answers in like a few emails, a few people knowing exactly what to do, what they're doing. It's their job. They always do that.
Yeah.
Can't believe that you didn't know about this.
Yeah, they're the casein specialist.
Oh my God.
That's all they do.
Do you mean cheesemongers?
Maybe.
I would like to hear more about you all people out there who know what to do, because it has been bugging me for years.
Okay. Well, listeners, get in touch. Earlier, you mentioned bracken thatch.
Oh, yes.
That's a thing that we've both got in common, having a little bracken thatch project. Although your project wasn't little, was it?
Well, it's all Daniel Postma's fault. For a start.
It's always Daniel's
I'm just
fault.
gonna straight away blame it. Yes. There is a round hut, so it's grassroots hutting project that's with Daniel, so Archeologist, with the University of Edinburgh and Historic Environment Scotland at Comrie Croft. So it's a natural, sustainable campsite in beautiful Perthshire in Scotland. Now, it's
also got a really great mountain biking track.
Yes.
I nearly built them a house.
How do you know? Yes, of course. It's a beautiful place.
It's
And
lovely.
if you are into mountain biking, which I had no idea about until I visited, wow, it's very impressive.
Yeah. Sorry to distract you from the actual important bit of the story.
That's okay. So it started last year, last spring, and I have been invited to, if I wanted to volunteer on the project. So that's what really got me carrying on with natural building, and it has always been connected with archaeology, which was great. So overall, it's a round hut with the hutting regulations in Scotland. That's made of turf blocks with a lower course of dry stone. But is it dry stone? So it's stones with a layer of turf in between the stones. Then that's it. It's a turf walls and the stones at the bottom. Here you go.
Yeah.
It's a bracken and random straw thatch. That's it. So it was meant to be a bracken thatch, completely covered in bracken. It's a massive structure. It's a very big roof. And now I realized that you were very right when you were saying it's great to start by a small project. It's massive. So it has been very interesting, and we have changed, Daniel and the group changed the way that we wanted to thatch depending on what was going on with the project. It started with bracken stobs. So you pull one by one the bracken. So you pull the bracken because you want the roots, so you can't cut it, say, with a scythe, which works brilliantly and is very quick.
Yes.
Pull the bracken, ideally remove the leaves, cut it to sides or not, and you twist it about 3/4 way, fold it, and it makes a stob with a sort of knot at the top.
Yep.
And normally, traditionally, you would shove that stob under a layer of turf that's already on your roof. Brilliant. So we tried
stuff
that.
thatching.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
As far as I understand. Always remember, even if I don't say it, it's always as far as I understand. So that was the principle at the start, and it proved actually quite difficult. Or maybe we were just super lazy, because lifting like a carpet the turf lengths, putting the stobs and putting the turf on top was much easier to thatch really quickly.
Right.
We started then realizing that the first couple of courses were rising at the back quite quickly, so it was making the roof steeper and steeper and steeper.
Yeah.
Because there's that knot at the end of the stob.
Yes.
So we stopped doing that, only removed the leaves and laid the bracken like that on the turf, under a piece of turf. So there's no fixings at all. There's no sways, there's no hazel staple spars, anything like that to hold it. It's the sheer weight of a block of turf on top of something else that just holds everything together. I have to admit, I had my very big doubts, like I usually do. And this year, actually a few weeks ago, we decided to remove the bracken and turf layers, because after 3, maybe 4, maybe 5, probably 4 weeks of bracken pulling and thatching, we only managed to do 3 or 4 courses at the bottom of the roof, and that was it.
Right, yes.
It took so much work, so much time, and so much work hours to just produce the quantities of bracken to put on the roof. So the top of the roof has been, the 2/3 of the roofs have been completed with random straw thatch and a net on top. And that worked really, really well. But this year, we realized that the weight of the turf and the bracken on the lower parts of the roof was pushing the walls, effectively the turf walls, inwards, dangerously inwards. So the idea for the moment, and has been, to trim the length of the roof. So all the beams, I'm forgetting my super specific words, all the beams, the roof structure will now rest on the wall plate.
Aha.
Instead of extending. So it rests on the wall, no problem, turf can deal with that. And instead of having an extension and eaves for the roof, we have decided to do a random straw and bracken, kind of mixed together, thatch all the way.
Ooh.
So we removed and kept all of the bracken, and while removing that, we could not pull the bracken out. When you want to pull some old thatch out, you grab a pile, you grab a handful, you pull, and it usually comes out. You could not do that. That was really, really stuck in the roof, simply because the turf that we laid on top of the layers of bracken dried, and when it dried, of course there's earth and there's a bit of clay in there, so it caught every single stem of bracken that was on the roof. So we had to unwrap all the turf under the straw to get to the bracken that was really very well dry. So it works very well.
It's not going anywhere.
Oh, it's not. And it was, again, very dry inside, dry under the first layer, etc., etc. So hopefully now, with this new cover, we'll have a majority of straw from a bale, so very cheap material, perfect for hutting or projects like that. Random straw on top of Hessian for the first layer.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have a very thin layer of bracken on top of the straw, so it protects it a bit, maintains it, and it looks dashing with its little yellow, black layers.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have enough bracken to finish the entire roof, and enough time to finish the entire roof. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that works, but your project with the bracken thatch looks amazing.
Yes. Well, I can't really take any credit for that. It was the Centre for Alternative Technology, CAT.
Mm-hmm.
It was a volunteer project led by a lady called Alice. And yes, she wanted to do they were building a bird hide, wanted to do bracken thatch. They got in contact with my friend Alan to ask him if he knew how to do it. Around about the same time that I got in contact with Alan to say, we've got loads of bracken. I've heard thatching might be a good idea because of Daniel saying that to me on the podcast, and it sat in my brain. So yes, I ended up there literally just for a couple of days to help and learn whatever I could. Wow. And it was a very small roof. What would it have been? About 2 meters wide by about 3 or 4 meters long, sort of monopitch roof. And we went for a much more sort of modern style of thatching. So we had, what would they be called? They're not purlins.
Sways?
Is that what they're called? They go across the rafters.
Yes, I think so. And they compress the thatch from the outside?
Yes. So there was attached to the rafters was a stick that went across, and then we put the thatch on, and then we put another stick on top of that and tied the two sticks together essentially, and sort of pinned it in place, and then the next layer of thatch covered our stick, so you got a continuous roof.
Yeah. Yes, ways.
Yeah.
They work so well. Yes, we're using them now. They're great. I only know that kind of thatching. Even with straw or reed, I only use sways. I can't do modern thatching for toffee at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's not completely modern. Like the modern, they use sort of wire and twisty things, don't they, and stainless steel bars. Sort of a hybrid, I guess. But yeah, I had a thoroughly enjoyable time.
So did you pull the bracken as well?
I did a bit of bracken pulling. It's satisfying, but it's not quick, is it?
But it's satisfying. I do agree. I miss it a lot, actually.
There's a special kind of noise it makes as it comes out, that kind of, which is just immensely satisfying.
I did not have this experience.
Oh, really?
So, no. Maybe your bracken is different from my bracken. That's incredible.
Yeah, maybe it's a different ground type, perhaps.
Yeah.
I
The
don't
sloppy
know.
noise ground. Right.
Yeah. Oh, you've got to come down and try some of our bracken.
Oh, yeah. I spent a week in Devon to pull bracken
Yeah.
and hear the schlops.
So what's your sort of analysis on thatching with bracken? Is it, do you think, a thing that people will have done, or would there have been more easily usable, accessible materials?
I think they would have used anything available in the area. And frankly, looking more and more now at traditional Scottish architecture and the materials, it's mad. There's some seaweed thatch. There's anything you can think of. Gorse, gorse, bracken, heather, all of that, broom, branches with turf on it. It has really opened my eyes to how fixated we are on using reed or straw. Saying all the time, especially again in open air museums, and I still really, really like it, saying water reed is just there, it's available if you have ponds or rivers, and there's plenty of it. Yep, absolutely. It's apparently not easy to harvest and not particularly practical, but you can. Same thing if you have fields, you can have very tall straw because of the varieties of the time. Okay. But then if you have, as you say, and you've seen it, a lot of bracken, it's not really a problem to pull bracken if you have enough people. And that's the thing. It always comes back to you need a community. And you probably did that. You are not just yourself and, your 2 kids and partner just building your own house. Well, you might be, but it seems like the majority of the time there are even teams of professionals going from place to place in a wider area. And then you probably have a lot of the neighbors, the family. I don't even go as far as think barn raising, but yeah, everybody help you to build a new house. You will help them to build the new workshop, and so on and so forth. And what's really interesting at the hut, the turf hut, is that modern 21st century hut that will have, doors and windows and maybe a rocket stove mass heater and lovely clay plasters and all that, even if it is archaeology based, it still very much is a modern building. On the side of it, they had built a turf sort of enclosure to resemble what would the house be if it was left to rot out.
Right. Okay.
So you would have your turf house with bracken or heather or straw, reed, anything on the roof. You change your thatch regularly, which we have done after a year. You have to do it in any case. And we are realizing right now by doing it that we could throw that damp or surface thatch into that little turf enclosure that was a much older disused house, leave it to compost, and because there still remains of walls, that protects whatever will grow inside of it from the elements, from the wind and so on. So you have a house, might reuse some materials and build another house and leave the previous one to become, say, your byre for your animals. So all your cows or your sheep and your things will live in there. So they will naturally enrich the floor, for sure. And once it's not good enough even for the animals, leave it open as a garden that becomes your kale garden, especially in Scotland, where you can grow things. And in the meantime, you basically have a massively, I want to say a circular economy, but yeah, just a circular evolution of your house. And you it's really weird to say it like that, but you are temporarily living in a pile of compost.
Yeah, that's
you build something new,
fascinating.
and yeah. So
That-
that's Tanya's research. Tanya Romankiewicz from the University of Edinburgh is looking a lot at exactly that, the rural landscape in the Iron Age and in modern days, and earth building, separating the two. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. Do you know what I'm thinking is I've always found it quite strange how people keep buying new houses and moving,
Oh,
and you're potentially saying that that's actually quite a natural progression to do that's been done for a long, long time. The people that always buy a new house and buy it, move and move and move. We've obviously changed it a bit, and now we're probably buying houses with more and more bedrooms rather than just so that we've got the cabbage. What do you say? Kale patch.
Kale patch, yeah.
Yeah. I like it though. I like that the sort of row, the sort of tail of degraded houses behind the current dwelling.
That was, again, that's not my invention at all. I would never have been that clever. But it makes a lot of sense because, from an archaeology perspective, when you look at an entire Iron Age site or a hill fort or something like that, and you have circle upon circle and it's everywhere on top of each other, and sometimes it's bigger, sometimes they seem to add a little piece on the side, like maybe grandma needs a bit of a hand, or they're married and now they have 15 kids. Well, we'll just extend a little bit on the house. It never really stops. It's very, very difficult to date and to read, and that would explain it. Because within a generation, you might have one, but you might have 3, 4 different houses. And you might build them, or you might move somewhere else and arrive in a house that's, still usable, but a little bit old and on its way out. But you don't lose on your material in any case. On your materials. Anything that you put on your roof, that you repair constantly, or that you change completely. You might very well change your thatch every year if you need to. Usually you would probably put some more onto it again and again, and at some point the smoke doesn't go through enough, or it might just be too far gone, and you change the entire thatch. That wouldn't be a problem. But it sounds logical to me only now. After chatting and working with all these people, I have spent years being told and taught that we need to find a way of getting thatch to last 15 or 10, 15, 30 years, because that's what we do now. And we apply that principle onto past cultures that might have been completely different.
The way that Alan Jones has always described it to me is that you'd have all this straw, and at the end of the season, you'd just fork a load onto the roof, and it would be quite ramshackle and, not the sort of very neat, orderly thing that we do now because we want it to last 30 years or however long a thatch roof lasts. It would be kind of, chuck it up there, and it's whatever's left by the next year, you chuck up a load more. It's sort of that constant cyclic living.
Oh, that's a nice way of putting it, cyclic living. Oh, I like that. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, it doesn't require super specific skills. Anybody can shovel some straw onto a thatch. I mean, I've done it. I can tell anybody can do it. So you might not need a thatcher. You might be able to do it yourself, which means everybody's probably doing it themselves at some points after the harvest. So is it like a seasonal thing, maybe with a festival attached where everybody goes from a house to the other, and like we used to lime wash everything both inside, well, especially inside, but inside and outside of houses once a year, whether it needs it or not. You do it. You lime wash once a year. That's it. Maybe.
I'm really conscious that we've been talking for 2 hours and you're probably exhausted. Well, because you've been talking for 2 hours.
I'm sorry.
No. This is brilliant. I'm loving this. I wondered if we could end by talking about spoons.
Oh, yes, of course. I should have checked more facts about spoons.
Because, I mean, you blew my mind when you started giving me spoon facts from history. And yeah, I'd love to share that with our listeners, a lot of which are spoon nerds.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, because I knew you are making spoons, or spoon carving, bowl turning, bowl carving, spoon turning, and things like that. And it just, I have done it a little bit. I've been making spoons, not quite carving spoons, because I was using gouges and chisels and a draw horse and and all the tools in the world to make spoons, but a sharp hook. And that was on a Tudor farm where me and my partner were working for many years. And the importance of spoons in life was incredible. We just don't consider that now at all. So, for example, everybody would have, I'm talking 1580s, 1550s, so 16th century, Tudor England, Elizabeth I, here we go. As far as I know, so everybody would have their own spoons. You don't share your spoon with anybody else because it goes in your mouth, which means it's very, very private. The comparison is, you have your own toothbrush. Would you share your own toothbrush with your neighbor or somebody at the restaurant? Probably wouldn't. If the answer is yes, probably shouldn't. But here you go. So you would transport your spoon in your pocket, so a little bag on your belt or something like that. Now, we still have these expressions. You have your own spoons and they are given to you by your godparents when you are born, because they are also very likely to become your guardians, because at the time, your parents might disappear.
Right. So,
your godparents are also called your sponsors, your sponsors, giving you something. So that's from the spoon word. If you are given a wooden spoon, like nowadays when you lose, you have the last place in a race, you are given the wooden spoon, because wooden spoons were the cheapest of them all. Then a bit better would have been a horn spoon, maybe a bone spoon, and then you enter the wide range of the metal ones. So you have brass, bronze. You might be born with a silver spoon in your mouth, which means your godparents gave a newborn baby a silver spoon. It's super expensive at the time. So your godparents are wealthy enough to give you a silver spoon and you're just a newborn baby. That might become your most prized possession all your life. Or you might have a very good life and, and earn a lot of money and swap for a gold spoon. Rock crystal with garnets in spoons. Which we have examples of in some museums in Europe and in the UK. So when you go out, say you are traveling, you go to an ale house or a tavern, you are bringing your own spoon, your own cutlery, and you sit down to eat. You don't sit down anywhere. You will check out what everybody else is using to eat with. So the wooden spoons, horn and bone might be in one side. You might not go and sit down straight away with somebody who has a gold spoon. Or maybe you do. Because you might have a silver spoon or a brass that's so well polished that it might look like if it's gold, and maybe some people on the other side of the room will think that you have a gold spoon. You don't, but it doesn't matter. You want to look above your station. And then you get, You get people to chat with you about business and jobs and things like that. So the spoons are such a mundane, everyday item that not many people actually look at or think about. But they were so important. And again, if you lose it, or if you sell it, or if you gamble it, you need to find another spoon, and you might just be able to afford something less.
Or you'd sort of socially downgrade.
Yeah, you can. If you lose it, or if it's stolen, it's unlikely that you'll be able to afford again a gold or a silver one or anything like that. Even metal ones are really expensive.
It's a shame you can't see my face, because I am beaming, absolutely loving.
But somebody told me, so on the Mary Rose, the sunken ship from the Tudor times, that's in Portsmouth?
Yes, I think so.
I hope it is. South of England in any case. So on the Mary Rose, a spoon carver was telling me he doesn't think that there's a lot of spoons or eating spoons, because on the Mary Rose a lot of wooden items have been found, no spoons. But my answer is, for a start I would double check, because I don't know very well the Mary Rose, and it's an amazing museum. But if everybody has their own spoon with them at all times in their pockets, you need to find the bodies to find the spoons. And then they might not have had much, spoons that can survive for a start. So if they are wooden, they can have disappeared or floated somewhere, etc., etc. But they might be scattered. We have very, very ancient spoons, and I absolutely should look deeper into Viking Age spoons, because I think somewhere, it might be Scandinavia, they have some really cute bone, but it might be wooden spoons in the shape of little triangles. So they are like mini shovels, and they're not easy to make, but they're really, really good.
I don't know if I can picture that. How is it the shape of the head of the spoon is a triangle?
So if you picture a triangle, you would have the flat edge as the end of the spoon that goes in your mouth, if it makes sense. And the point is connected to the handle.
Oh, okay. I see.
So really like a shovel-y thing. I'll try to find that, because they are awesome. And there are some Iron Age ones and scoops and things found in the locks in Scotland. There are many things. I'm super excited about spoons.
I'm super excited about spoons. That's so good. I love it.
I would just try to push I love it. Push everybody, every craftsperson, to go, what are you making? Did it exist in history? How long ago? What is the earliest evidence you can find? And can you make it again? Wooden bowls, wooden spoons, brushes, combs, baskets, textiles, anything goes, because I can bet they existed a long time ago, and you definitely can make replicas, but they will be much more complicated than you think in a lot of cases.
It's funny, I was reading a magazine, I think it's called Craft. It's quite a sort of arty magazine, I think, and they had an article about people that were really connected to the sort of root material of their craft. And there was one of the sort of pull quotes in this article was about a pot maker or a ceramicist. And they said, this quote said, it's hard to believe, but you can actually make pottery from clay from the ground.
Oh.
and I thought, wow, is that not common knowledge? Is that not?
Oh, man.
And I guess it isn't. It's for most people that do ceramics, they probably buy a bag of clay, and it's processed and beautiful, and
wow.
I fully agree with you. Look as far back as you can.
That's so weird. I never considered that you wouldn't know. That's Yeah, that's the weird thing, living in just this miniature world of everything historical and everything is archaeology. I breathe, eat, think constantly. You can't stop. If I get a cold, I'm like, oh, well, I wonder what remedies they had at the time. I wonder what they used to blow their noses in.
Yeah.
Then you will end up going for the toilet questions. You cannot avoid it straight away. Everything that the kids can possibly even think about and ask us questions, adults don't usually dare. It's the most interesting stuff. Always.